dare you?
Oh, that's right, we do dare. Dare to dream of degreelessness. Oh yes, that's right. We're back in. I'm your host, 21st Century Digital Boy, and your good buddy in the mix, Shanghai Pete. Before we get started today, there is one thing that I've got to mention. Don't worry, I'm not going to get up on a proverbial soapbox and preach about politics. My soapbox and preaching are reserved purely for video game stuff. Most of you, I'm sure, can probably guess what my stance is regarding everything that's going on anyway, but even so, I still do need to just take this moment to say, fuck the police. Yes, while all hell has broken loose outside, it seems hell has also found some time to spare to get up inside your living room and on your console and PC as well. I know that comparison may be in poor taste, but I'm trying to add a little levity here, okay? So our main story tonight actually starts with the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. A little silly, I know, but it's always fun to poke the industry propagandists in the eye with a sharp stick whenever one presents itself. And today's sharp stick is that the Sonic movie was just confirmed to be getting a sequel, and journalists are very mad about it. You stupid fucks, will you never learn? Imagine that, listening to the concerns of the people who pay your salary turned out to be a good idea. How shocking, I wonder why more companies don't utilize this strategy, huh? Remember when you morons kept pushing this shill hackery? From Sonic the Hedgehog to Star Wars, are fans too entitled? Give me a fucking break. They don't care about any outcome from this article or changing your mind. They're just trying to sell you hate. They're trying to piss you off. The mainstream news media does it the same way establishment media in every industry does it. CNN gets you to hate one team while Fox News gets you to hate the other, because as long as both teams are distracted fighting each other, they ignore the establishment, who are all on a team of their own. And hint, that ain't your team, no matter which side of this ridiculous political divide you find yourself aligned with. But in the entertainment industry, there are only two teams: customers and the establishment. We all know the establishment cannot tolerate dissent, so who do they turn customers against then? That's right, ourselves. That's why we see vacuous swill like this article pushed on us by some dullard apparatchik of the industry, or all the legacy media pushback against something like the Snyder Cut. Their only goal is to sell hate and redirect customers' ire at the establishment onto each other. Think about what happens when a game elicits a divisive reaction from the fanbase. All the draconian media outlets immediately begin running interference for the publisher or developer, sometimes both. They'll label people who hold an opinion contrary to the industry-approved one as toxic or racist or other exclusionary branding, instantly providing other more fragile customers ready-made reasons to make enemies out of them and set them on the attack. It's pretty smooth, right? Now, instead of being angry at Naughty Dog for completely ruining characters, or being disappointed that Square Enix decided to farm out your favorite childhood RPG as a live service, you're in other customers' comment sections, mentions, or DMs, spewing ignorance and undeserved rage at other victims instead of the people that are truly responsible, doing the industry's work for them. It's insidious, isn't it? But more on this later. Remember, the establishment of any type is always against you, first and foremost. They're always against you. And if you're sitting there thinking, oh no, not me. I understand how maybe that could be the case with other people, but definitely not me. All that means is that it's fucking working. The people who write or publish this stuff are complicit and disgusting. There's no one they wouldn't betray for clicks. Now, let's back up a bit though and look at another example that may on the surface appear unrelated. Nowhere is our thesis more evident than in this next little bit of refuse that we're going to talk about. Now, according to Twitter, my favorite source of news and reasons to throw myself off a building, some hack fuck writing industry agitprop for Forbes didn't get a free review copy of The Last of Us 2, and well, it looks like that caused some sand to get trapped in his pussy.
What's the matter? You got some sand in your vagina?
Oh, bring out the black clothes and mourning veils, boys. We've got a tragedy of biblical proportions on our hands. Now, fortunately for us, as heartbreaking as this calamity may be, there is a lesson to be learned here. First off, let's look at this purely from a surface level. I honestly don't know what's more absurd, that this guy's head is so far up his own ass that he thought this was something the world needed to know about, or that he thought doing so was going to garner him sympathy. Now, in a turn of events utterly predictable to apparently everyone except him, this resulted in a super nuanced debate regarding precisely to what extent he's able to fit the game industry's phallus into his eager mouth. Or, in other words, a disingenuous argument where everyone involved pretends not to know why the legacy media didn't cover Sony's horrific abuse of the DMCA and YouTube's copyright system. We all know the reason behind the deafening silence from the access media on that. They didn't want to lose their access. It's not a secret. Shit, they even announce it themselves. So miss me with these industry cucks desperately debasing themselves in defense of their masters with transparent attempts to explain away the inexplicable. We all see you with the cock in your mouth. Stop trying to tell us it's not there. You're embarrassing yourself. But that's not all that's going on here. As I mentioned, there is another reason I wanted to go into this and not just to make fun of this fucking idiot, as it's wonderfully illustrative of the true nature looking at the sinister heart of modern day journalism. Take a look at these tweets here. Take a good look. Just give you a second to read through them a little bit. This grown man, a gainfully employed so-called professional journalist, felt it was reasonable to tell the world that the effect of his fucking Twitter feed on his health is a legitimate reason to not cover a story. Words typed on the internet that may potentially hurt your feelings is your public excuse for not doing your fucking job? Jesus, I wish I could call out fucking sick from my job with that excuse. Jesus Christ. Tell that to the reporters, real journalists that will go into live fire active combat zones to get a story, despite the very actual and real danger of getting their goddamn heads shot off. Tell them a bunch of mean kids on the internet hurt your feelings by typing at you, and that's why you can't be bothered to write a story about a video game. Yeah, see how well that goes over. Why would anyone think that that's a valid position to take? Doesn't make much sense, does it? You aren't a protected class, you aren't entitled to a certain amount of civility or an elevated quality of discourse. You're just a guy that writes about video games. That blue checkmark doesn't indicate that you're some philosopher king in an ivory tower, it just means that to the rest of us plebeians, you're especially untrustworthy. People like this guy are a disgrace to what remains of their profession. Telling us it's the responsibility of the public to protect his precious feelings or else he'll hold coverage of a story hostage? Who the fuck do you think you are? Pussy! It just goes to show you how far the standards for his now laughing stock of an occupation have fallen. Still though, this all does seem kind of weird, right? I'm not talking about how it seems sad and depressing. I'm saying it seems weird also, like in addition to that. Why would anyone choose this hill to die on? Why humiliate yourself like this? What could you possibly gain? Now, if you're thinking it seems like something else may be going on here, you are absolutely right. Let's pull the curtain back, shall we? All we really need to do is just look at this through the lens of my earlier point, and what he's doing becomes very clear. He's deflecting and continuing to run interference for the industry establishment. Let's take a look at the language here, okay? This is not healthy. Mentally and emotionally exhausting, deeply selfish. You aren't helping to convince game journalists to cover these topics by screaming and swearing. Instantly accused of being a shill, making an angry YouTube video, paranoia in the gaming community. You don't sound nearly as edgy or as important as you think you do. Think about this for a second. What does all this have in common? Seems sort of familiar, doesn't it? That's right, it's a victimhood narrative, one designed specifically as a dog whistle and targeting reticle for a certain demographic of customers to sick them against other customers who may not share their ideologies or zombie-like allegiance to nightmarish neo-Marxist belief systems. And then what do you have? One group of customers attacks another group, that other group defends themselves, and before you know it, all our energy is directed at each other and away from the industry toady, but more importantly, away from the establishment. Now the conversation is about this fucking idiot and who's being mean to him instead of what it should be about, Sony's abuse of the copyright system. And that, my friends, is what a game journalist's real job is. To sell hate. Not hate of them or hate of the establishment, but our hate of each other. Because as long as we're distracted by fighting against ourselves, we'll never muster the combined influence necessary to affect any real change in the gaming industry itself. And that's the whole point. Now, if one were so inclined, one may be able to extrapolate certain lessons and points we've discussed here and apply them to larger issues going on in the world and our society today. But I wouldn't know anything about that. I'm just a YouTube idiot talking about video games, isn't that right? Well, that's our show for today, and quite an odd one it was, if I do say so myself. I had initially intended to do just another co-video games news episode, but I don't know, this one just kind of got away from me, I guess. I hope you all enjoyed, and that maybe you'll look at news coverage in general through a more discerning and skeptical lens from now on. Or maybe you knew all this already and you were rolling your eyes at me the entire time. Either way, we hope you had fun, and we want to thank you for spending this little bit of your free time with us. We love you today. We love you all the way. Don't forget to do journalist job for them by downvoting this video. Leave a comment below inciting argument on their behalf, and definitely never subscribe because actual happiness always looks pretty squalid in comparison with the overcompensations for misery.